You're saying that I'm dishonest.
I think you're dishonest. You seem a little fearful to critique Israel. You're coming across understanding of everything they're doing. Israel has done a ton of things that have been very wrong.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's Salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to donate to Palestine and to support the channel. I just watched Candace Owens appear on Piers Morgan's show for the first time. It was quite interesting as they spoke about a variety of topics, but we're going to concentrate on their discussion about Israel and Palestine. Candace gave Piers an absolute whipping on the subject and called out his biased pro-Israel stance that furthers their propaganda. Let's take a look at the first clip where Piers tries to deny a genocide is actually taking place by twisting words and their definitions.
I had retweeted and liked something from a journalist named Yashar Ali. He had shared a clip of a Congressman, Brian Mast, who got up on a platform and said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. That is despicable, genocidal language.
And do you think, for the record, that what Israel's been doing constitutes genocide?
Well, what I've been having trouble is all of the people that are pro-Israel and say it's not a genocide won't tell me what is a genocide. What percentage of a population has to be killed before we can use the word genocide? It's a funny little thing. They won't tell you. They won't tell you what constitutes genocide. So I would like a clear understanding of how many Palestinians have to die before we are allowed to term it a genocide. All of the experts can't agree on what a genocide actually is, but they love to float around the word on virtually every other issue. Let us know, experts, what percentage of the population of Palestinians has to be killed before we are allowed to say that it's genocide. What I can tell you is I am completely uncomfortable and utterly against the amount of Palestinian innocent lives that have been lost in this conflict, particularly children. And any person who is fearful of stating that the death of innocent children has been utterly unacceptable is a coward.
I mean, listen, I completely agree, but do you personally think it constitutes genocide?
What is the number?
No, I understand.
What is the official number?
It's not about specific numbers, it's about an intent.
But it has to be.
Well, no, it's not. It's about an intent to eradicate.
That's not true, Piers, because in America, they say that Native Americans, it was a genocide committed by white men. This is what they say, right?
No, but I'm talking about what the definition of a genocide is.
But what I'm telling you is that would be incorrect because the majority of Native Americans died from smallpox. It was accidental. Some 90% of the Native Americans that lived here died from smallpox, and it's considered a genocide.
No, I understand. I'm telling you what the definition of genocide is, which is not about a specific number in any circumstance. It's about an intent to target and eradicate a whole people based on their ethnicity.
I'm disputing that. Is the definition shifting? Because it is my understanding from Rabbi Barclay that the definition of anti-Semitism shifts, so maybe the definition of genocide has shifted.
Let me read you the exact wording. Definition of genocide from the Oxford English Dictionary. The deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. So by that definition, do you believe that is what's happening to the Palestinian people and it's being perpetrated by Israel?
Israel has proven in the past that they can be very specific when they want to get somebody out, whether that's a hostage or any other certain military operation. And what I am seeing happening, forgetting the specific language of a genocide, is something that I'm using my platform to speak out against, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me what the media calls me. I've had every headline. I do not believe that they are being careful in what they are doing. I think it has been it seems to me that the destruction of the hospitals and the schools and of the UN buildings. Would you say, Piers, that you believe that's unintentional?
I do not believe Israel's waging genocide.
So Piers denies there is a genocide going on in Palestine by stating it's the intent that defines what a genocide is. Piers has previously stated Israel's intent is self-defence, so it's not a genocide, despite there being 10 months of daily violence resulting in over 40,000 casualties and many more under the rubble and ruins in Gaza. However, on the other hand, Piers calls what happened on October 7th a genocide because of the intent behind it. And this is Candace's point, and a prime example of Piers Morgan's biased pro-Israel leaning reporting. My only critique of Candace here is that she could have just owned it and called it a genocide like she has done on her other platforms previously. However, she did call it a media propaganda attached to the word genocide by saying it has been used so many times in other scenarios, but is deliberately not being used for Palestine because they keep changing the definition of it and are complicit in covering up for Israel. Candace also spoke about how Israel are specific about figures when it suits them. For example, when it comes to how many hostages are missing, and Piers himself over the last few weeks has embarrassed Israeli officials for being specific about the amount of Hamas they've eliminated, but denying the numbers numbers of civilians they've recklessly taken out by saying they don't know for sure, which Piers himself called a very convenient story to once again absolve Israel of wrongdoing. Piers's dictionary definition of genocide is the deliberate elimination of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group, with the aim of destroying that nation or group. Piers denies this is what Israel is doing. I disagree. I think this is an accurate description of what Israel is currently doing to Palestinians. Candace's response to Piers's description of genocide being defined by intent was, is the destruction of hospitals, schools and UN buildings unintentional? To which Piers responded with, it's not a genocide. This is nuts to me, and this is yet another example of Piers Morgan's pro-Israel propaganda. The intent is clear, massacring tens of thousands of innocent people on a daily basis for nearly 300 days in a row, cutting off food, water, electricity and aid, bombing homes, schools, hospitals, mosques, churches, playgrounds and refugee camps where Israel told people to go as a safe haven. Israeli government officials calling Palestinians human animals. IDF soldiers on social media mocking the deceased, the starving and those fearing for their lives. How much more evidence of genocidal intent do you need? Let's roll the next clip where Piers continues with his word salad games to deny there's a genocide going on, and Candace outsmarting him by getting him to admit there actually is.
I have said repeatedly in the last few weeks and months that I think the proportionality of Israel's response is now unacceptable. And particularly since they decided to go into Rafah, a refugee camp that they set up, to then target Hamas in the middle of a refugee camp where you're bound to kill so many innocent civilians in the process, I think is unacceptable. But I'm just curious, given that you tweeted about genocide and no government ever has a right to do it, whether by your calculation from that definition, what Israel is doing is deliberately killing a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group.
Yeah, well, what I can say to you, again, because these definitions shift, I don't think we need to focus on the word because I'm telling you what I believe. And my belief is that they are not being careful whatsoever. My belief is that there has been too much loss of Palestinian life.
But that's different to genocide, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay, that's fine. We don't need to. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're like obsessing over this one word. The Israeli government is not being careful in how they're dealing with this.
That's
I
fair
agree
enough.
with you that the amount of death has been completely unacceptable. When I tweeted that was back in November. So we're talking way more lives that have been lost.
I get it. Now, here's my reason. I
never imagined the amount of dead Palestinian children that I would see on my X feed since then.
It's horrific.
You know, it's heartbreaking to me as a mother. It's horrific to me that the media seems almost complicit in the dehumanization of Palestinians. And I will not be on that side because at the end of the day, the hit pieces, the name calling, the anti-Semitism, the psychopathic language that seems to be coming out of people means nothing. And I want to make sure everybody knows this, right? At the end of the day, you are going to have to account to God for the things that you allowed, for the things that you were complicit in, and for the things that you did not have enough courage to state.
Okay.
The amount of death of Palestinian children has been unacceptable, full stop.
Okay.
Bibi Netanyahu, in my view, should not be given an invitation to Congress. I think it's unacceptable.
I agree.
Unacceptable.
I don't
and
think
to be clear, for whatever the reason,
he shouldn't be leader
when
of
it comes
Israel.
to the topic of Israel, it does seem that journalists are fearful to critique Israel.
Well, I'm not
now,
at
why
all.
is that?
So-
Because I would say, Piers, that you seem a little fearful to critique Israel and to want to always seem that you're coming across a little bit understanding of everything they're doing. What is it that makes journalists, corporate journalists,
okay, let me respond.
fearful of saying,
Can I
like,
respond?
hey, you know, Israel has done a ton of things that have been very wrong.
Yes, and I have said they're wrong. I think Netanyahu should go. I think half of that cabinet should go, because some of them have definitely been using genocidal language. I think a lot of what Israel's been doing in the last few weeks is completely unacceptable.
There you have it. Piers Morgan admitted that Bibi's cabinet used genocidal language, yet Piers still denies it's a genocide. Look, Piers, the intent doesn't get any clearer than that. They're saying it, we're seeing it, and you're denying it. Stop making a fool of yourself. Piers' obsession with denying there is a genocide going on baffles me. It's like someone being caught stealing, then saying their intent is just to borrow something without anyone knowing. And according to Piers' logic, because they reframe their intent, it's not theft. Come on, Piers. Candace called it how it is. The media is complicit in covering up Israel's war crimes, spreading their propaganda and dehumanising Palestinians. Just listen to any news report on it. It's very carefully worded in Israel's favour, despite the horrific loss of life in Palestine. This is not about the religion of Judaism or Islam, or Jewish people or Muslim people. It's about a country doing something wrong, and we should all be calling for it to stop, including the media. Candace made an accurate assessment when she said the media, including Piers Morgan, are afraid to criticise Israel. I think it goes deeper than than that. I think there is a monetary incentive and a vested interest from Zionists in how the media report things. Another example of this is how the media label people anti-Semitic for speaking up against Israel, even if they have nothing against Jewish people. Candice has had this happen to her numerous times. To be fair, Piers did say what Israel is doing in Rafah is completely unacceptable, and he agreed with Candice when she said Bibi Netanyahu should not be invited to US Congress. Piers even said Bibi should not be in power at all, which is something we agree on. Candice nailed it when she said all the wrongdoers will be accountable to God, and seeing the images of deceased children all over social media and not speaking up against it is cowardice. Let's roll the last clip where Candice tells Piers why Americans and Christians should not support Israel, as well as calling him out for exploiting this conflict for his own gain.
I am consistent on all matters. I do not want America involved whatsoever in anything that is happening in Israel. I don't want my dollars sent over to Israel. We should not be supporting Israel. It doesn't even make economic sense that we have so much debt and yet we're sending money over to support Israel. And the biggest issue, by the way, that I have with Israel in talking about them being above reproach is the fact that they are supplying the arms to murder Christians, okay? In Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world, and yet nobody talks about that. For whatever reason, it seems to be the circumstance that when Jewish people die in Israel, it's wall-to-wall coverage. But when Christians die all over the world, nobody talks about it. The slaughter of Christians in Armenia, the arms being supplied by Israel, that the media turns the other way and says, oh, okay, but what about what's happening in Israel? So you know what I'm asking for? Actual equality. Okay, because it seems like this is like a special category, the special relationship that we have.
Right, but you would not support a full-fledged war against the Jews.
No, no. Or any, by the way, I also would not support a full-fledged war against Muslims. I'm not supporting a full-fledged war against Christians.
You're saying that I'm dishonest.
I think you're dishonest for a lot of other reasons. So I don't find you to be someone that actually takes meaningful risks and says what you believe. You kind of take both positions all the time.
I second Candice's sentiments that it is unacceptable for Western nations to send billions in taxpayers' money to Israel when there are so many problems that need fixed within those nations. The citizens are actually being neglected to fund a genocide in the Middle East. I was unaware of Israel's hand in the genocide of Christians in Armenia, but I'm glad Candice made this point. Basically, if you're a Christian who supports Zionism and Israel's oppression of Palestine, you're a traitor to your own people. Not only the Christians in Palestine, but also the Christians in Armenia. All you Christian apologists blinded by your Islamophobia supporting Israel need to take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and be ashamed of yourselves. Zionism is a threat to us all, Muslim and Christian. I also loved how Candice called out Piers for being the fence-sitting clout lord that he is. Israel's intent since 1948 to the present day has always been the expansion of land and to build illegal settlements at the expense of Palestine. Before this most recent genocide, Palestinians were not allowed to go to certain parts of their own country and did not have the same basic human rights Israelis have, again in their own country. It's 2024 and there's no sign of equality ever being a reality for them. That is if they even survive 2024. The intent couldn't be much clearer. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join my free Telegram group via the link in the description, where we as Muslims can speak freely and without censorship about issues like this, and in order to guide and support each other in our deen. And remember to like, subscribe and become a channel member for access to exclusive content. Until next time, inshallah, Jazakallah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah